Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Lamex Effects. Today, we do a little bit of historical catch up so you can understand how I'm finding all these references. Also, we get a scene with Yuna and Titus that gets a little too sad if you think about it too much. But first, like and subscribe, and share this with others who would like to find references in Final Fantasy X. Now, let us begin. So I said we were going to talk about the Al-Bed, but I need to do some biblical catch-up. I'm going to speed through all the events, well, not all the events, but most of the events of the first 5 books of Moses. All this is very important, so if you skip this, you won't understand anything about the Bible, nor will you understand the references in the game, actually. Anyway, such and such happens, and Egypt enslaves Israelites. That's where we're starting. We're starting in Exodus. Then such and such happens, and Moses saves the Israelites from Egypt. He also says, "You shall see the salvation of the Lord when you see the Egyptians dead." So if you didn't know, being saved in the Bible means God committed genocide for me. We'll get to why in a few minutes. Anyway, such and such happens, and Moses gives the Israelites the commandments, statutes, and laws of God. Then, like any government official, he told them what punishments were for breaking the laws, saying, Deuteronomy 28 verse 45, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee." So this is the start of organized religion for Israel. If you break my commandments, I will punish you. Also, Deuteronomy verse 46, "And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever." So when God was giving out these punishments, he wasn't only talking to those listening. He was speaking to the children, the unborn babies in the pregnant woman's belly, and the little sperm cells inside the man's testicles. He said, from generation to generation till the end of time, I don't care if you don't remember my commandments, or even if you forget that you're an Israelite. I don't care if you flee to another country or what you happen to look like. I don't even care if you think Jesus Christ freed you from the law. If you were an Israelite, I will punish you as stated in the law of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. So you will know that my word shall stand forever. And people wonder why I believe in the Bible. The reason is, unlike other religions, when God says something, it happens. He even issues that challenge that if other religions have real gods, let them tell the future just like he can. In fact, there was a stipulation to know whether or not someone was actually speaking the word of God. That if he was, he should be able to tell you the future exactly. I'll get to that in the next episode. Anyway, that's the history. So now you know why I say people in Spear are Israelites. Even though they look Asian and call themselves Spearin, because they suffer the curses of Deuteronomy and Leviticus, I can tell their race is Israelite. So remember, race is not a color. And I can tell what your race is by what you go through. Let me say that again so you know to remember it. Race is not a color. Race is a bloodline that is proven by what you go through. Now, let's get a curse and see if these verses match.
Whoa! This is a pretty big town.
Lucca is the second largest city in Spira.
I thought every town was little. You know, like Besaid and Kilika.
Towns don't usually get bigger than that. Because when a lot of people start to gather...
Sin? What about Lucca? It's safe here?
It's not any different, but the stadium is here. The Crusaders fight to protect it with all their strength.
They protect the stadium?
Blitzball is really the only entertainment that we have. Spira's a little short on fun these days.
Whoa. Talk about pressure.
That's right. Is Xanarkand like this too?
Well, there are more buildings, all tall ones, and cramped together.
Oh. They must be so tall. Don't you ever get dizzy? Let's go find Sir Orin.
Now, Yuna explained that every time too many people gather, sin comes and destroys their cities. Now, the growth of a city shows its prosperity. So Yuna is saying the cities are not allowed to prosper. That is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday as a blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So the spirits would fulfill this curse that they will not prosper when they try to build. Not only that, but they are only oppressed, and no one will so much as try to save them. Also, their cities are being destroyed, right? That is verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down wherein thou trustest. Throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. So all their cities that they trusted in will be destroyed, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 52. In other words, because their cities keep getting destroyed, they cannot prosper as a people. Wow, 2 curses in one scene. Nice. Wait. Verse 62 says, ye shall be left few in number. It's perfect to illustrate that the towns would be small, right? Like, I thought every town was small, like they say. Anyway, now it's hard to imagine what this looks like, so I'll get some real world examples of what Spira goes through. Black Americans were freed from slavery, but no one wanted them around, so they were forced to separate and build their own cities. But because they had the skills from being slaves, they began to make money from all the customers because since they were slaves, they had all the good skills. So they built schools and businesses and churches and planted food so their children could eat. But Caucasians were angry at their success, so they lied that these people did something to a Caucasian woman. And so the Caucasians bombed the black cities. Yes, cities plural. There was more than one Black Wall Street if you didn't know. But now there are none. And now you see black people in the hood and you say, I thought all black cities were poor, like LA and Chicago.
Towns don't usually get bigger than that. Because when a lot of people start to gather...
Sin?
Someone's gonna give me hell and call me all types of names if I only focus on blacks, so I need a world of examples. He that hath an ear, let him hear. In Guatemala, they had become a free country, finally, but the people were poor, so poor that the children's bellies were large with air because they had no food. And because no one ate, because there was no food, they had learning disabilities, like literally their brains were deteriorating. So the Guatemalan government knew that if they wanted to save the people, they needed food. Turns out a company called United Fruit Company owned over 40% of useful land in Guatemala, but only used 10% of what they owned to do business. So, since Guatemala's constitution was written by the United States, they used a law where they can take any land deemed necessary for the benefit of the country as long as the owners were paid. Guatemala paid the United Fruit Company and used the land to make food. Now the people could eat. And with a new resource and ability to think, because they weren't starving, Guatemala built schools and businesses and churches along with the food. But United Fruit Company, Caucasians, weren't happy that Guatemala was prospering without them. Remember, they got paid, but they lied to the US Secretary of Defense saying Guatemala ran them off the land and were communists. And so Caucasians bombed the Guatemalan cities. And you see Hispanic people in the barrios. Barrio is a Spanish word for neighborhood, so basically barrio means the hood. And you say, I thought all Hispanic cities were poor.
Towns don't usually get bigger than that. Because when a lot of people start to gather...
You know, it's funny that these two groups, the blacks and Hispanics, often act like they don't like each other, but they have the exact same problem. Huh. Anyway, I need another example. There's a charm. So these Native Americans are some poor people. They are on the reservations, and the American government says that they are tired of paying money to keep these Indians alive. Because apparently, because of Native Americans' low standard of living, they had a hard time surviving, so the American government needed to pay to keep them alive. Basically, on a reservation, there are no resources. So there were no schools and no food. Just so happens that on some land in the Osage Reservation, the natives found oil, and with that oil, they became wealthy and built schools and businesses and churches and had food. Guess what happened? No, they weren't bombed. At least not most of them. No, it was more creative than that. Some were poisoned. Anyway, now you say, I thought every Native American tribe was small, like the Osage and the Navajo.
Towns don't usually get bigger than that.
You know, the funniest part is if I use any of these three examples, the black people point at the Native Americans and say, wait a minute, they're not poor, they have casinos, how can they be poor? The Native Americans will point at the Hispanics and say, they're not poor, they have comedians, how can they be poor? And then the Hispanics will point at the blacks and say, you're not poor, you have all these benefits and celebrities, how can you be poor? And I'm just looking at all of them like you're all a bunch of idiots. But anyway, I don't have any examples besides these outside of America, so if you have any, please post them in the comments. In fact, even if they are in America, post them. I want all the resources. Also, there was a time that was written in Ezra and retold in Nehemiah. The Israelites had just come out of slavery, and when some people heard that someone sought the prosperity and well-being of Israel, they lied to their king and attacked Jerusalem. Funny how everything comes around. But anyway, because this game takes heavily from the Bible, things can get very real very quickly. And a scene like this shows another example of how sin just takes everything away from us. And that can leave us scared and depressed. He that hath an ear, let him hear. We build and sin destroys. Sin destroys and we build. Eventually, we become content with never growing from our poor estate, because the more good we do, the more of a target is put on us. No good deed goes unpunished, as they say. But Final Fantasy X is a story of hope. Hope that there is a way to be saved from sin. Yet, like in the game, how can you solve the problem if you don't know the cause? I know the cause. Next time on Lamex Effects.